Hi, I'm John Whelan, your host for this evening. Welcome to the Pot Stock Millionaire Summit. During this exclusive event, you'll discover how to make a multi-million-dollar fortune in the marijuana boom of 2018. On January 1st, when California started selling recreational marijuana, the market practically doubled overnight. But it was just the beginning, because on June 7th, Canada is set to legalize recreational pot for the whole country all at once. This is huge because it'll be the first industrialized nation to do so. It's the biggest event in the history of marijuana profits. This bull market mania promises to be 8 times bigger than Colorado, when the pot stocks averaged peak gains of 24,000%. In fact, this could very well turn into one of the biggest bull market of your lifetime. That's why the Chicago Tribune wrote that legal marijuana is the fastest growing industry in the world, and Forbes reported it's the best ground floor opportunity we've seen since the early days of the internet. And NBC News reported marijuana is the biggest investment opportunity since the dot-com boom. So if you missed out on the first wave of marijuana investing, when pot stocks shot up 3,986%, 17,300%, and even 69,000%, if you missed your shot to get in on the ground floor of marijuana stocks that averaged over 24,000% peak gains, if you missed your chance to turn a small stake into over $1 million in marijuana stocks, because today you'll get a second chance to cash in on the marijuana mania. And shortly, legendary speculator Doug Casey will be joining me. Doug is the founder of Casey Research and is one of the top natural resource speculators on the planet. Doug's made untold millions for himself and his subscribers over the past 5 decades. And he's up over an estimated $1 million just from one marijuana investment. Joining me right now are 2 of Doug's most trusted partners, Nick Giambruno and Justin Spittler. Nick is an investing prodigy and Doug's right-hand man. He's traveled the world with Doug, searching out profitable off-radar opportunities. Nick, thanks for being here.
I'm excited to be here, John.
And Justin does boots-on-the-ground research for Doug and Nick. He literally sold all of his belongings to travel to the top marijuana hotspots in North America. He's met with everyone from venture capitalists to growers and farmers to dispensary retailers and edible producers. Thanks, Justin, for finding time from your travel to join us tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Before I start talking with Nick and Justin, I need to say one more thing about Doug. Many know Doug Casey from his legendary speculations since the 1970s. But here's what most folks don't know about Doug. He's quietly grown into a marijuana millionaire. Shortly after Colorado and Washington legalized recreational pot in 2014, Doug saw an opportunity. He snatched up shares of a tiny marijuana company. Now he's up 1,900% and counting. Since he's got in so early, he's bought shares for pennies. His $50,000 investment is now worth over $1 million. And that's exactly what we're going to show you today. How to do what Doug Casey did and get in early in the biggest marijuana boom of our lifetime. Because it's not too late to become the next marijuana millionaire. And you don't need to put thousands of dollars at risk. Because we're in a downright marijuana mania, you can start with just a few $100s. And that small stake gives you the potential to make millions. In a minute, you'll see how $200 grew into $1.8 million in 3 easy steps. That's precisely how you can build an entire nest egg with one big marijuana windfall. In fact, Doug and his team are so confident that anyone can become a marijuana millionaire following these recommendations that Casey Research is making an unprecedented guarantee. You will have the chance to see 500% gains from each of the 5 marijuana stocks reviewed in this presentation today. Casey Research, in the entire 40-year history of the business, has never made a promise like this. But Doug is up 1,900% and counting from his marijuana stock. And he knows that the marijuana boom about to hit will be 8 times bigger than anything we've seen before. During the first marijuana boom, when Colorado and Washington legalized recreational pot, marijuana stocks delivered peak gains of 2,455% in 12 months for 22nd Century Group, where every $100 skyrocketed to $2,455. 3,968% in 5 months for Cerna Inc., turning every $100 into $3,968. 6,233% in 4 months for Axiom Biotechnologies, shooting every $100 up to $6,233. 17,300% in 9 months for Maple Leaf Green World, catapulting every $100 into $17,300. And 69,000% for Vapor Technologies, ballooning every $100 into $69,000. If you had put just $100 into each of these, your $500 investment would have reached $98,956. And had you put $1,000 into each, you'd be sitting on over $989,000. Now, of course, these are some outstanding returns, and you would have had to sell with great timing to lock in these gains. But even if you cut the gains in half, $1,000 turned into $490,000. That's the potential we're talking about with marijuana stocks today. And that's why we're so confident that we're extending the historic 5 for 500% guarantee. Look, these stocks shot to the moon when Colorado and Washington legalized recreational pot. In fact, massive gains in marijuana stocks were so common and predictable, investors gave the phenomenon a name. They called it the Colorado effect. What's going on now in Canada is a repeat of what happened in Colorado, but the Canada effect is going to be 8 times bigger. Getting a second chance to make $1 million never happens, except for right now. Pay attention tonight, so you don't miss out on the Canadian marijuana boom only to regret it forever. So, now it's time to talk with our resident pot stock expert, Nick Giambruno. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing great, and I've got lots of stuff to share tonight.
I know you and Doug go way back. You two met in Beirut, of all places, and soon you joined KC Research. Doug and KC Research readers have seen incredible gains in the past, including 1,059%, 4,329%, 1,072%, 1,227%, 1,347%, 1,733%, and even 64,000%. You can see that list on the screen. I did some quick math. If you had put just $200 into each, you could have been up $149,533. And that's a 10,000% gain. Meanwhile, 1,000 in each would have grown to $747,885. And I know you have similarly high expectations with Canadian marijuana stocks, right, Nick?
Definitely. I'm very excited about the potential of the marijuana market. Even though pot stocks have seen tremendous growth in the past few years, we're just at the start of the biggest marijuana stock mania of our lifetime. Because Canada going fully legal is a game changer. Look, this is like getting into Amazon when it was a rinky-dink website that just sold books, or getting into Apple when it was just 2 goofy guys working out of a garage. Because today's small Canadian marijuana producers are going to morph into the blue chips of pot. They're in the same position as Amazon and Apple were at the start of the tech boom. The future Fortune 500s of cannabis are starting up right now on farms and warehouses in Canada. And we'll never see a better time to get in on the ground floor of these companies as we do right now, before Canada legalizes recreational pot on June 7th.
Nick, how can you be so sure that these pot stocks are going to go up when Canada legalizes recreational pot?
Hey John, this is Justin. I can answer that. It's because we've seen this scenario play out not once, but twice before. When a state legalizes recreational pot, marijuana stocks shoot up. First, let's take a look at the Colorado effect. When Colorado went recreational, we saw peak gains from leading companies. Aurora Cannabis rockets up 10,867%. Cannabis Leaf up 14,900%. Endex blasts up 32,000%. Supreme Pharmaceuticals shot up 157,900%. That would turn a tiny stake of $100 into $157,900. And then we saw it again when California went legal. Check out the California effect. Alliance Growers up 1,400%. General Cannabis up 832%. Maple Leaf Green World up 516%. All these gains came in just 6 months. I can't stress this enough. When a state or country legalizes recreational marijuana, pot stocks go up. Way, way up. It's like a calendar of profits because we know the exact dates it becomes legal and when it will go on sale.
Is it really that simple to predict which stocks will shoot up right before a state or country legalizes recreational pot?
See for yourself. 6 months before California sold recreational pot, Nick started telling his lucky readers about the pot stocks that were set to ride the wave of marijuana legalization. Those who took his advice had the chance to make fortunes, including Randall C., who wrote this to us. I have 6 Casey recommendations for cannabis stocks and have already taken a free ride on 4 of the 6. I currently stand as follows. 1. Up 300%. 2. Up 191%. 3. Up 110%. 4. Up 65%. 5. Up 64%. And 6. Up 41%. Stuart R. made similar gains. Hi, Nick. Just wanted to say thanks for the great recommendations. I'm up anywhere from only 70% to over 300% since your cannabis recommendations a few months ago. Darren H. wrote in too. Nick, my initial investments into the cannabis stocks are still 100% up, from $20,000 to over $40,000 right now. And Robert F. told us, I just sold half of 5 stocks because they doubled more and am now playing with house money. And right now, we're in the exact same sweet spot with Canada. Canada is set to legalize recreational pot on June 7th, making right now the perfect time to get into these little-known Canadian pot stocks. And this marijuana boom is going to be 8 times bigger than anything we've seen before. So we expect to see even bigger gains this time around.
That's pretty compelling proof. But how on earth is Canada a bigger market than the United States, especially now that California is selling recreational pot?
Well, that's a great question, John, and California is definitely a huge market. But the Canadian marijuana market could grow exponentially bigger in the next year. Let's take a quick look at the numbers. In 2017, Canada sold under $1 billion of medical marijuana. The well-respected financial firm Deloitte estimates that legal marijuana sales in Canada can hit $8.7 billion per year after recreational pot is legal. And when you add in the accessory market, it could potentially hit $22 billion a year. This growth could shoot Canadian pot stocks through the roof. But I'm conservative, so let's stick with the $8.7 billion. That's still 8 times growth practically overnight. I can't remember seeing a major industry grow exponentially, pretty much overnight, like we're seeing with marijuana. Imagine if you knew the coffee market was going to grow 8 times its size, John. What would you do?
I'd invest in coffee companies. I'd put my money into coffee growers, and I bet I'd make millions.
Exactly. But we both know the coffee market isn't going to grow 8 times overnight. It's already pretty mature. Or consider Amazon right now. As big as Amazon is, it's not going to increase 8 times over. Take Apple. As popular as the iPhone is, Apple won't grow 8 times its current size. I don't think any other market on earth has the huge growth potential that marijuana gives you right now. Not coffee, not tobacco, not beer or alcohol. Only marijuana, because we're on the ground floor of legalization. This is why the first marijuana boom minted so many new marijuana millionaires. When Colorado and Washington legalized recreational pot, the pot market literally went from 0 to $6.7 billion. With California and Canada going recreational, it's set to hit $50 billion. This makes the opportunity in marijuana today 8 times bigger than anything we've seen before. In other words, John, we're on the ground floor of the biggest marijuana bull market ever. And right now, you've got a second chance to get in on this historic boom. Canadian pot stocks are leading the way.
But Nick, I've got to ask, when you say Canadian pot stocks, do you mean I've got to be in Canada or open a Canadian brokerage account to get in on this, do you?
No, not at all, John. Even though these are Canadian companies, they're all listed on American stock exchanges. You can buy them in your current brokerage account just like you do any other stock. There are no hoops to jump through.
Great. So it's easy to do. And Nick, you're not alone when you say the big opportunity in pot stocks is with Canadian companies. We're running some quotes on the screen right now. Canadian marijuana stocks poised to ramp up. This could even end up being the biggest bull market in history. Bigger than the tech boom with stocks like Google, Facebook, and Amazon. Bigger than the gold mania we saw about 10 years ago. And bigger even than Bitcoin boom last year. We saw how the first boom in marijuana stocks was, how many millionaires it created, and we're on the cusp of a second boom 8 times bigger than the first one. Justin, you've got thousands of miles and hundreds of hours of boots-on-the-ground investigation under your belt. What have you discovered while traveling North America?
Well, what I've discovered is a lot of people made a lot of fast money during the first marijuana run. The best part is, these were Main Street millionaires, folks just like you and me getting in on the action rather than the fund manager, hedge fund, or institutional types. And I see the exact same setup now, but far bigger, 8 times bigger to be exact. Every cannabis event I go to, every hedge fund pro I meet, everyone's talking about Canada taking the marijuana industry to a new level. Starting today, folks have the chance to turn a few $100s into $1 million or more, just like so many new marijuana millionaires did the first time. But the key is to get into these stocks early, before June 7th, when Canada is set to go legal. Really, the key is to get started right away. Today, now, if you can. Look, I brought some charts to show you how big this story really is. Check out this list of recent pot stock winners. 1,635% gains in 5 months for TerraTech. 1,665% gains in just 17 days for GB Sciences. 2,358% gains in 11 months for Cannabis Sativa. 2,360% gains in 19 months for Delta 9 Cannabis. 2,608% gains in 12 months for American Cannabis. 4,033% gains in 7 months for the Hydropothecary Corporation. 7,820% gains in 8 months for Praetorian Property. 14,900% gains in 10 days for Cannabis Leaf. This is just a partial list. In fact, 42 companies went up 1,000% or more in the first marijuana boom, and 11 of them went up 10,000% or more. Together, these stocks averaged over 24,000% peak gains. So you can see why we're so confident in Casey Research's 5 for 500% guarantee that all 5 marijuana stocks recommended today will each give you the chance to see 500% gains or more.
Here's the thing. I remember when Colorado and Washington first legalized recreational pot, but unfortunately I didn't get in. So I'm kicking myself right now. And from the emails I've read, I think lots of people with us tonight did the same thing. We sat it out and missed the boat. What do you tell folks that think they've already missed out on marijuana, that think that good stocks have already gone up?
You're right, John. Most people missed out on these life-changing moves. Back in 2013, most folks had no clue what a marijuana stock was, much less which one to invest in. But today we do. Colorado, Washington, Oregon, and most recently California gave us a roadmap to follow. And the opportunity we see today with pot stocks is bigger, 8 times bigger. So you're not too late. No one's too late. Assuming, of course, they take tonight's message seriously and act on this as soon as possible.
That's good news, that today's marijuana boom promises to be so much bigger than the first, because it gives folks a second chance to become marijuana millionaires. Here's the thing though, if you miss your chance to get rich with marijuana stocks this time around, you might just regret it forever. Nick, before we get into the details, I know there's a little confusion on exactly what a pot stock is. Do people invest in pot farms? How does it work?
Well, that's a great question, John. Investing in marijuana is super simple. There are only 2 ways to invest in pot stocks today. Number 1, companies that don't touch the plant. These are what we call pick and shovel plays. In other words, these companies don't grow or sell marijuana. They supply the legal marijuana industry with soil, fertilizer, grow lights, ventilation, software, and even alarm systems. Pretty much everything needed to grow pot and run a marijuana business.
Okay, so that's the first way. What's the second way to play the marijuana boom?
This second way we're really excited about, and it's how the big fortunes are going to be made from Canada going legal. I'm talking about investing directly in the plant. By that, I mean marijuana farms. These are publicly listed marijuana growers, and even though all the growers are in Canada, they're on American stock exchanges. So, buying pot stocks is as easy as buying shares in Amazon, McDonald's, or Exxon. You can do it from your current brokerage account with a few clicks.
Nick, why are all the growers in Canada? Why are you recommending Canadian pot growers over American companies?
Good question, John. There are 3 clear reasons why you should look toward Canada for the next millionaire maker. Reason number 1, Canada is more progressive than the United States with pot regulation. Canada legalized medical marijuana for the whole country back in 2001. Compare that to the United States, where medical marijuana is still illegal in 21 states. Reason number 2, in Canada, pot will be regulated and treated the same way alcohol is. You'll be able to buy it online and have it delivered to your home through the mail. You'll even be able to buy it in convenience stores. In the U.S., marijuana is still a Schedule I drug. the DEA's most serious category of illegal substances. You can only buy it in dispensaries, and you have to use cash. Imagine if Starbucks wasn't legally allowed to accept credit cards. Suddenly, sales plummet, and its stock isn't so hot. The bottom line is, in the U.S., the marijuana industry is handcuffed by government and bank restrictions. Reason number 3. Canada is making recreational marijuana available to every person in the country 19 and over. In the U.S., recreational pot is only available in 9 states and Washington, D.C. Put another way, imagine if Amazon could only deliver goods to 9 states. Nobody would know who Jeff Bezos is. But do you know what, John?
What's that, Nick?
Even with all these restrictions in place, nearly $9 billion in legal pot was sold in the U.S. in 2017. Now, imagine if all the restrictions were lifted from American growers. That's the exact situation we have in Canada. To see the difference, here's a map of legal pot in the U.S. And here's legal pot after Canada goes legal.
So this is why the Canadian effect is going to be much bigger than the Colorado effect. And that's why it's so urgent for folks to get started right away, before the second boom really takes off.
Guys, I just want to chime in here. Many of the gains from the first marijuana boom were Canadian pot growers, including Canadian cannabis with peak gains of 1,463% when its stock went from 64 cents to $10 in 3 months. Delta 9 cannabis with peak gains of 2,360% when its stock went from 15 cents to $3.69. The Hydropothecary Corp with peak gains of 4,033% when its stock shot up from 7 cents to $2.79. Aurora Cannabis with peak gains of 10,867% when its stock rocketed from 3 cents to $3.29. That's enough to turn a small stake of $100 into $10,867. And there are tons more big winners. I'll repeat this here too. Even though those are Canadian companies, their shares are easy to buy from any brokerage account, just as easy as any big company like Google or an index fund or ETF. And remember, these gains were made when farmers were limited to growing just medical pot. Now, they're ramping up to grow recreational pot. In fact, they can't buy enough land to supply the demand. It's estimated that the size of the Canadian marijuana market will grow 8 times bigger after recreational pot is legalized. This will cause a marijuana shortage right at the time of maximum demand. To avoid a shortage, it's estimated they will have to grow between 575 and 1,000 metric tons by 2021. That's over $8.3 billion worth. And a small handful of marijuana growers are set to capture a large share of this market. They have a head start in growing recreational marijuana. These are the companies we're going to review, because they have the inside track on growing recreational pot first. And all these companies are still growing and selling medical marijuana too. So it's a 1-2 profits punch. But here's the icing on the cake. Canadian growers aren't just selling to Canada. They're doing business in the U.S. and exporting their marijuana to Europe and countries all over the world. So they're on the forefront of a growing global market.
Right. What most folks don't realize, even so-called experts, is that Canadian marijuana companies are international. This is why Canadian growers will explode. Everyone worldwide wants their marijuana. And American pot growers can't supply it because they're handcuffed by federal regulations. In Canada, growers have no such restrictions, and they've already made huge inroads selling to the international market.
This international market is another reason today's boom in Canadian pot stocks is going to be 8 times bigger than any boom we've seen before. It's no secret that Canadian growers are expected to cash in big on global demand, right along with investors. In recent months, more than a dozen countries have legalized medical marijuana. New laws are pending in at least a dozen more. This has sparked an unprecedented demand for legally grown marijuana. So, while U.S. pot growers face all sorts of restrictions, Canadian growers are exporting their pot all over the world, including Germany, Australia, New Zealand, Uruguay, Colombia, and the Czech Republic. In short, billions of dollars of international revenue will go directly into the pockets of Canadian marijuana producers. This is why the next marijuana boom is going to be 8 times bigger than the last.
So not only does Canada's marijuana industry dwarf the U.S., it's the world's premier provider of pot. But Justin, earlier you mentioned Canada is facing a marijuana shortage. how can they continue to export pot after recreational becomes legal?
That's a great question, John. That's why so many of these companies are expanding their grow operations by hundreds of thousands of square feet. And medical marijuana producers are first in line to start growing recreational pot. They're ramping up right now. And that's when we're really going to see these stocks take off, just like we saw with the Colorado effect and the California effect. But the Canada effect is going to be much, much bigger, 8 times bigger, and will turn even more Main Street investors into marijuana millionaires.
I've personally never seen more excitement about investing in an industry than I see with marijuana. From what I see, it's far bigger than Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies even.
And John, I've traveled throughout North America meeting with venture capitalists and growers, and I've seen all the excitement about investing in marijuana. All anyone is talking about is Canada going legal, and all the money being poured into Canadian growers.
Justin, what sort of money and companies are we talking about here?
Most folks joining us tonight probably heard of Constellation Brands. They're the billion-dollar Fortune 500 company behind Corona Beer and Svedka Vodka. They took a 10% stake worth $191 million in a Canadian grower. The stock of the grower shot up 238% in under 3 months. And the Bank of Montreal, one of the big 5 Canadian lenders, invested $175 million into a Canadian marijuana company. And now Canadian growers are going through merger madness. In the biggest marijuana deal in Canada's history, one grower bought another for over $1 billion. This is why you want to be in these Canadian stocks right now. So, when new money comes pumping in, you can make hundreds of % returns in months or even weeks. And profits from the marijuana stocks are so dependable that even hedge funds are cashing in. Bloomberg reported the Tribeca Natural Resources Fund used pot stocks to crush more than 10,000 other funds. Marijuana stocks helped it gain 145% to become the world's top-performing hedge fund. That's 1,135% more than Barron's average for the top 100 hedge funds.
Justin, you're really showing us how big the Canadian marijuana industry is getting. These aren't mom-and-pop growers. They're attracting billions of dollars from Fortune 500 companies. Now, I see why you refer to these Canadian companies as the future blue chips of pot. They're going through the same growth spurts companies like Amazon and Apple did during the dot-com boom.
And here's the thing. Because we're at the very start of this new marijuana mania that's 8 times bigger than the first, you don't have to be rich or a stock market wizard to make a killing. When you're investing in a mega boom like this, all you need is a few $100s.
John, there's one thing I want to add to that.
Nick, what's that?
Canadian marijuana growers are also going to benefit from California and other states going legal because they can do business here in the States. Canada-based farming companies even grow marijuana in the U.S. One just paid $40 million for a Florida pot grower. I know Justin has a good example.
Sure, Nick's talking about Maple Leaf Green World. It's a small Canadian company that grows medical-grade pot for the California and Nevada markets. It's already harvested 2 crops and will expand by 20 outdoor acres in California and a 33,500 square foot indoor grow warehouse in Nevada. Pretty simple stuff, right? Here's the best part. Maple Leaf shot up 17,300%. That's enough to turn a small stake of $100 into $17,400. And $1,000 grows into $174,000. And then there's Cannabix Pharmaceuticals. They develop personalized diagnostic tools for medical marijuana. You could have bought their stock for under 4 cents on August 12, 2016. 6 months later, it was at $6.45. That's a gain of 16,874%. $100 turned into $16,974. $1,000 turned into $169,740.
These gains are incredible, Justin. So a small chunk of change can grow into life-changing money awfully quick. Shoot, you could even build an entire nest egg in one fell swoop.
Yes, and faster than in any other market I know of. Now clearly, you're not going to see gains like this every day. As I mentioned earlier, you need great timing and the right research. But when done just right, these stocks could fund your retirement and more, all at the cost of a few pennies.
Can you show us another example?
Sure. We've got Puff Ventures. Puff Ventures is basically a venture capital firm for the weed industry. So it puts money into promising pot startups. It's broadly diversified with investments in medical marijuana growing, medical cannabis apps, boutique strain development, and e-cigarettes for pot oil. and Puff shot up 4,400% in just 9 months. Think about that. It's like making 488% per month for 9 months straight. $100 turns into $4,500, while $1,000 goes into $45,000.
You're making 1,000% gains seem like it's really easy here. Is there any way to lose?
Of course there is. Not all marijuana stocks are going to go sky high. Some will drop like a lead balloon, while others will make investors millions. Marijuana companies are still very volatile, and many are really small, trading for a few cents or less than $1 per share. So there's definitely risks here, but the upside warrants it. And remember, with the fast gains these companies have seen, you only need a few $100s for the opportunity to make millions. That's probably the best part. Since you can make a fortune with just a small stake, you can strictly limit your exposure here. That's what you can expect when you get in first in a new worldwide mania like we have with marijuana right now. U.S. News recently interviewed a chief executive in the industry who said, "You will not find another multi-billion-dollar market growing at this type of rate anywhere in the world." Forbes wrote, "Legal pot is the best ground floor opportunity we've seen since the early days of the internet. Investing in tiny marijuana stocks now is like investing in Coors, Anheuser-Busch, and Jack Daniels right before Prohibition was overturned. Fortunes are going to be made from marijuana stocks when the entire country of Canada goes fully recreational."
Okay, Justin, let's say I have $1,000 to invest in marijuana stocks. Is that enough? How do I turn that into $1 million? Is it possible?
I'll do better than that. Let's say you have just $200, because $200 could have turned into $1.8 million with only 3 penny pot stocks.
Justin, I'm sure that's got everyone's attention. Go for it.
It's not even that difficult. You just need to put a little bit of money in the right penny pot stocks. For example, on November 8th of 2013, you could have bought 1,142 shares of Surna for only $200. Surna produces climate control systems for the cannabis industry. 5 months later, you could have turned your $200 into $8,165. That's over $1,600 a month for 5 straight months on a single $200 investment. And you weren't day trading, you didn't touch options, and with only $200 at risk, you could sleep well at night. But we're just getting started.
Okay, that seems realistic, but we're only at around $8,000. That's a long way from $1.8 million. What's your second play?
A few months later, on December 12th of 2014, you could have rolled your $8,165 into Rocky Mountain High. It produces hemp-infused sodas. Shares were less than a penny apiece. 4 months later, you could have sold at 18 cents and cashed out for $183,712. What started a few months earlier as a $200 investment has ballooned to over $183,000.
Now, if I had just made $183,000, there's no way I would reinvest it into another stock. I'm going to take a bunch of profits out.
Of course. So let's say you pocket $100,000. Does that sound realistic?
Actually, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Good. That's more than half your profits safely tucked away. That leaves you with $83,712. You could have put the $83,712 into United Cannabis on December 23, 2015, when it was 13 cents a share. 13 months later, you could have cashed out for $1.8 million. That's how $200 could have turned into $1.8 million.
That's incredible how these tiny marijuana companies could turn a couple of $100 into $1.8 million. But how realistic is the scenario you just walked us through?
I'm using the best case scenario, assuming you got in and out at the perfect time. But let's say you were more conservative than my example, and you only did half as well. You'd still be up $1 million on your original $200 investment. Now, of course, when you swing for the fences like this, you're bound to get a few misses. After all, this is a new industry, and in order to deal with volatility, you need an ace up your sleeve. I'll get more into that later.
But how many marijuana stocks shot up like that? Did you just pick the best 3?
Not at all. These were far from the only pot stocks making incredible moves. As you'll see in a moment, these aren't even the biggest movers. The best marijuana stocks averaged 24,000% peak gains. This is why we're so confident with our 5 for 500% guarantee that all 5 of our plays will each return 500% or more to you. We really feel like we're going to over-deliver on that promise.
Okay, that all makes sense. But those are examples. How do we know you guys will find plays that give similar results going forward?
That's simple. Nick's already done it. Months before California started selling recreational pot, Nick alerted his readers to the best pot stocks to get into, and many of them made out big. Pitts W. got into 4 of the stocks. He wrote in up 145%, up 60%, up 29%, up 205%. Leslie V. is a grandmother who lives in Australia. She wrote in, I've made heaps so far. After we came back from vacation, I was pleased to announce to my husband. We made over $25,000 just while we were away.
Hey, Justin, I'm glad you mentioned Leslie. It shows that you can buy these stocks from anywhere. She's in Australia and is profiting from the marijuana boom. And she's a grandmother. I know lots of folks joining us today are worried about their retirement savings or need to earn more than 2 or 3%. Leslie proves that you can still make fast gains to make up for the lost time.
That's right, John. These pot stocks are retirement safe. You can buy them in your IRA if you want. There are no restrictions. And talking about fast gains, Joanne K. wrote in, I purchased one of Nick's picks on December 22nd, and just a few weeks later, it's up 50%. This is the fastest rise I've ever seen in a stock I've ever owned.
Justin, I know a lot of folks tuned in right now are seeing these gains and think to themselves they missed out. What do you have to say to them?
Here's what I say. We saw the best pot stocks average peak gains of 24,000% after Colorado went legal. We saw pot stocks deliver 100% peak gains after California started selling recreational pot. And we're going to see it again after Canada goes legal. When a state or country legalizes recreational marijuana, pot stocks go crazy. And if you don't get into Canadian pot stocks now, a year from now you're going to look back and be sick to your stomach when you see the gains you missed out on, especially knowing you could have got in on the ground floor for just a few $100s. That's all it takes, and it can lead to a fortune, just like it did for Doug. He's up 1,900% and turned $50,000 into $1 million with one marijuana company he invested in.
Doug's going to join us momentarily to tell us about that big win and why he sees so many more opportunities in marijuana today.
But the pot play was just one win of many over his life. I don't know anyone who's made more money from things that come out of the ground than Doug has. Throughout his life, Doug has traveled to over 155 countries, exploiting opportunities similar to the one we see now with marijuana. Just like he's been with marijuana, Doug's always been well ahead of the crowd, finding bargain after bargain in natural resources.
Can you guys share some examples with us?
Sure. In 1993, prices for natural resources had crashed to Great Depression levels. Most didn't want anything to do with natural resources, but Doug saw a huge opportunity. Doug put an $1,875 stake into Canadian natural resource company Paladin Resources. 2.5 years later, he sold it for $1.2 million. That's a 64,000% return.
Any other examples?
Yes. There's Doug's big win with uranium. Most investors stay away from uranium because it powers nuclear reactors. The Fukushima disaster is still fresh, and some folks are still wary of what happened at Chernobyl. Doug bought uranium stocks at a time when uranium prices were near record lows. That led to gains of 1,255% in international uranium and 4,239% in Altius Minerals. And aside from his own gains, Doug and his team have delivered a number of picks to readers as well. Craig S. from Osaka, Japan is up 3,100%, and he wrote, I remember Doug's words and bought Paladin Resources when it fell to 0.9 cents per share. I just cashed out with a 3,100% profit. My mortgage is now paid off. Thanks, Doug. And William M. from Zionsville, Indiana, is up 5,826%, and he wrote, I owe much of my retirement security to taking a small flyer on IUC at 27 cents per share and watching it climb to about $16.
That's great, hearing how many folks have cashed in on your recommendations. So even though Doug specializes in natural resources and commodities, he's not telling folks to invest in the commodities futures market. Instead, he finds stocks, right, Justin?
Yup. By seeing the big picture, we can then figure out the best stocks that will benefit from a trend. Or in the case of marijuana, a massive mania. For example, during the financial crisis, most people lost their shirts. But anyone who bought any of the following companies during the financial crisis could have made at least 10 times his money in 2 years or less from February of 2009. Look at the list. Crocs, up 1,347%. Gulfport Energy, up 1,227%. Ion Geophysical, up 1,098%. Ruby Tuesday, up 1,072%. Lazy Boy, up 1,016%. Genworth, up 993%. Buckeye Technologies, up 1,059%. Sonic Automotive, up 906%. SFN Group, up 1,024%. Vico Instruments, up 1,017%. Capstone Paper and Packaging, up 1,036%. These are the kinds of plays Doug targets.
So, Justin, before Doug comes on, can you tell us a little about his big marijuana win?
Of course. You see, Doug has an eye for getting into natural resources and commodity stocks before others see opportunity. That's what he did with marijuana. Back in 2014, most were scared to invest in pot. Doug knew it was the future. After all, marijuana is just another agricultural commodity like coffee, cocoa, or sugar. Like uranium, Doug saw a big opportunity in a commodity most were afraid of. In November 2014, he bought a penny pot stock for 10 cents a share. A recent Canadian filing in June put the stock at $2. That's a gain of 1,900%. So today, Doug's investment is worth $1 million. Most investors never see returns like these. Doug Casey has made it a habit.
Justin, give us some more examples of insane marijuana profits. I want folks to see how easy it can be to put little money down and grow it into a marijuana millionaire.
Sure, John. Let's start with Endex. It provides specific software solutions for the medical marijuana sector. It's basically one of the first marijuana tech companies, and it's done extremely well in this sub-niche. Take a look at this amazing chart. Endex saw a peak gain of 32,000%. 100 grows into $32,100, while $1,000 grows into a whopping $321,000.
That's life-changing money for most folks. I know I've never turned $1,000 into $321,000, ever. But I can clearly see it's possible with the right marijuana stocks. Got another example?
I've got tons of them. Let's look at Vapor Enterprises. It's a small company that makes vaporizers. Vaporizers are a high-tech, healthier way for someone to smoke marijuana. They allow you to consume it without the toxic byproducts of burning the plant the old-fashioned way. Pretty simple business, and the stock took off. See that spike? It delivered huge peak gains of 69,900%. That would turn a small investment of $100 into $70,000. $1,000 grows into $700,000. With moonshots like that, you could build a nest egg in one decisive move. These two stocks alone could have turned $200 into more than $100,000 for you. $1,000 would have returned $500,000. Regular folks who never touched a joint in their lives made untold fortunes with pot stocks like these.
Justin, I know there are some marijuana stocks that did even better. Can you share those with us?
Sure, but before I do, I just want to point out that these aren't back-tested or hypothetical gains. These moves really happened, and you didn't need to be an accredited investor or trade options or get in on an IPO. Nothing unusual or complicated. You could have bought them as simply as any other stock, with a few $100s. And as Nick has told you, as I'm showing you, and as Doug will soon prove to you, we expect to see similar gains in 2018. This is your opportunity to invest in tomorrow's Microsoft, Apple, and Amazon of pot for pennies. You could see similar and even bigger returns. We're shooting for life-changing gains, like investors saw with medical cannabis payment solutions. As medical marijuana became legalized, its stock shot up 299,000%. MCP doesn't touch a single pot leaf or rolling paper. It provides payment solutions to medical marijuana dispensaries and growers. Now, there are lots of payment solutions companies out there, but because MCP specializes in marijuana, its stock shot up an astronomical 299,000%. Obviously, 299,000% looks like a once-in-a-lifetime gain, but yet it happened again, this time with Pot Network Holdings. Pot Network is one of the early medical marijuana companies. It develops premium hemp extracts. As states legalized marijuana as medicine, its stock skyrocketed 399,000%. You see, when you catch marijuana mania right as it's starting, the potential gains are unlike anything you can imagine. If you had just put $100 into each of these two stocks above, you would have turned $200 into $700,000. $1,000 turns into $3.5 million. The marijuana stocks I've been showing you averaged 24,000% peak gains.
Now, folks, some of the stocks Justin has been sharing are just the cream of the crop. But even if you fall short of 24,000%, you could still see gains of 2,600% or 3,900% as we've shown before. Wouldn't that outperform all of your current investments? Now, of course, nothing in the market is guaranteed. These types of plays come with their own risk, so you shouldn't bet the farm. But the potential here is clear, and if you want a slice of the boom, you have to act fast, because the second marijuana stock boom is taking off right now, and it's moving at breakneck speed.
Exactly, John. These stocks move super fast. Look at Cannabis Leaf. It's another stock that shot up faster and higher than any stock I've ever seen. Cannabis Leaf makes high-quality edibles. You see, many medical marijuana patients don't or can't smoke. Instead, they eat marijuana. Cannabis Leaf doesn't grow marijuana. Instead, they provide recipes and ready-made formulas to marijuana bakers and edible makers. Their stock soared 14,900% in 10 days. $100 turned into $15,000, and $1,000 ballooned into $150,000 in 10 days. And this happened last year. This shows you that the new pot boom is already happening right now. Stocks are beginning to take off.
And that's why it's utterly crucial for folks to get in now. Or else, in the next year, when you see the incredible gains some of these marijuana stocks are delivering, you'll be sick to your stomach. It's rare you get a second chance to get in on the ground floor of a market that's going to be the biggest investment opportunity since the dot-com boom. Today, legal marijuana is a major economic driver and job creation juggernaut. Forbes reported that the marijuana industry is projected to create more jobs than manufacturing by 2020. That's only 2 years away. And in those 2 years, today's tiny Canadian marijuana companies are on track to transform into the Budweiser of pot and the Amazon of Apple of cannabis. And you can still buy into many of these future blue chippers for a few dollars. Justin, what's a share of Cannabis Leaf going for before it shot up?
It was just 10 cents a share. That's it. Imagine how many shares you could have picked up. It shot from 10 cents all the way to $15 in 10 days. It's incredible. It averaged over 1,000% gains every day for 10 days straight.
We've shown folks a lot of examples of stocks that exploded during the first marijuana boom. But I like the fact that you just showed one that moved recently. It's part of the second marijuana boom, which is taking off literally as we speak. Have any other examples of recent pot stocks that gone up?
Yes. Take Doja Cannabis, for example. They're producers of handcrafted premium cannabis. On January 1st of 2016, you could have picked up shares for 5.5 cents. On November 27th, 2017, shares had jumped to $1.20. That's a 2,082% gain. Every $100 turned into $2,182. Every $1,000 into $21,820. And I really think we're going to see similar moonshots with marijuana companies this year. I don't see how we can't.
Justin, how can you be so sure that pot stocks are going to continue their meteoric rise?
Because we know for a fact when Colorado and Washington legalized recreational marijuana, tiny little pot stocks exploded in value. Some of those companies are now the biggest marijuana growers on earth. And folks had the chance to get in early with these stocks before they exploded. And pot stocks exploded again right before California started selling recreational pot. It's a pattern of profits that repeats every single time recreational pot goes legal in a new state. We have the same opportunity now, except it should be 8 times bigger because the entire country of Canada will go legal. And we have the potential to see similar 14,000% gains like investors did with Cannabis Leaf, or the 16,000% gains with Cannabix Pharmaceuticals, or the 17,000% gains with Maple Leaf Green World. That's because the coming 2018 marijuana boom is going to be 8 times bigger.
Of course, not all pot stocks are going to gain 17,000%, right?
Obviously not, but even those that don't still go on tears. Let's look at Aurora Cannabis, a company that provides medical marijuana directly to Canadian patients. It's a simple, profitable business plan, so the stock rocketed up to peak gains of 10,867% over 3 years. So that's still an impressive 3,600% a year for 3 straight years. Here's the interesting part about Aurora. The stock started out at 3 cents per share, so it was a true penny stock. When shares are that cheap, they can multiply many, many times over, and very quickly. At its peak, it hit $3.29. If you put $100 in, it would have grown to $10,967. $1,000 explodes into $109,670. That's why it's so urgent for you to get in on the second marijuana boom right now. I repeat, right now. Look, it only takes a small investment in a penny pot stock, and your life could change forever with a big winner. That's how so many new marijuana millionaires get created.
Justin, talking about marijuana millionaires, we now have Doug Casey on the line. Doug is a world-renowned speculator and founder of Casey Research. He's made millions speculating on natural resources like gold and silver.
Thanks, John. And Doug, thanks for joining us.
It's nice to be here.
John's already introduced you to our readers, and everyone knows you as a speculator in natural resources, usually gold and silver. But now you've discovered a new natural resource, marijuana. So, Doug, where do you see the legal marijuana market going forward?
Well, let me set the stage first, Nick, because drugs are a highly charged subject. They're a hot-button topic for a lot of people. Everybody's got a strong opinion, but I find these opinions are often irrational. They seem to come from deep inside the most reactive recesses of people's collective mind. So let me clear up a few things. Since I'm going to advocate the legalization of drugs in general, and marijuana in particular, I want to point out that I personally abstain from drugs, and I generally eschew the company of abusive users. So that said, I think that drugs should be 100% legal, and not just cannabis, but all drugs. Now, few people consider how arbitrary and historically recent the current drug prohibition is. Until the Harrison Act was passed in 1914, heroin, cocaine, and everything else were perfectly legal and easily obtainable over the counter of your local drugstore. And until that time, very few people were addicted to narcotics, even though they were available to everybody at the local drugstore. So I just want to point out, to set the tone for what I'm about to say, look, drugs are no more of a problem than anything else in life. In fact, life itself isn't just full of problems. Life is problems. But making these things illegal is not the answer to solving this problem. Look, hysteria and propaganda aside, the fact is that most recreational drugs, and by that I mean marijuana in particular, pose less of a health problem than alcohol or nicotine or sugar, or for that matter, a simple lack of exercise. Now, let me reemphasize something. I'm not encouraging drug use. Some drugs cloud the mind, but others actually clear the mind. It's up to you, or at least it should be, to decide what you need or want, what's good or bad. There are hundreds of recreational drugs with widely differing effects, and insofar as recreational drugs present a problem at all, the only problem there is arises from overuse, which is hard to define and can be true of absolutely anything.
What incentives do states and even countries have to continue legalizing marijuana?
Well, I see three main drivers, and let me give them to you in order of importance. The first is economics. The economic implications of drug legalization in general and pot legalization in particular are huge. The pot industry is going to be as big as the alcohol industry in a decade, and it's going to be bigger than tobacco before that. And why is that important in the current context? Not only are there a lot of commercial interests in this area that stand to make not just billions, but tens of billions of dollars. But this is something that governments are going to love to tax. And since governments today, on all levels, everywhere in the world, are bankrupt, they're going to go where the money is. So the economics alone guarantee that governments are going to continue moving in this direction. And that's because of their financial problems. But there's a second reason: crime. Supposedly, drugs cause crime. But that's only true indirectly. It's the illegalization of drugs that cause crime. The drug problem, as it relates to crime, is solely due to the fact that recreational drugs are illegal. The fact they're illegal creates the crime problem. Look, alcohol provides a classic example of this. Historically, alcohol has been by far the most abused substance in the U.S. and everywhere in the world throughout history. But it's only been with the enactment of Prohibition in 1920 in the United States that it became a real problem. It's not only the problem of alcoholism, such as it was, it made it worse, but it created a crime wave. Prohibition essentially created the mafia, among other things. Making a product illegal necessarily turns both users and suppliers into criminals, but they're artificial criminals. The only people it makes happy are the blue noses, the busybodies, the neo-Puritans who want to control other people and enforce their morality on the public at large. And because illegality makes any product vastly more expensive than it would be in a free market, some users have to resort to crime to finance their habits. But because of the risks and the artificially reduced supply, the profits to suppliers are necessarily huge. Not just the simple businessman's return that can be had from legal products. Just as Prohibition in the 1920s turned the mafia from a small underground group of thugs into a big business, the war of drugs has done precisely the same thing for drug dealers. And by far the major cause of corruption in law enforcement today is drugs. The whole anti-drug war and making them illegal is completely insane, and it's totally unproductive. But let me give you the third reason why I think drugs are going to become legal. And I mean all of them in the future, but pot now. And this is the moral issue. A lot of people like to talk about it, but generally from the wrong angle. My view is that most people generally want to do the right thing. The way to look at this, however, is that your primary possession is your own body. If you don't own your own body and don't have a right to do with it whatever you want, then in effect you have no rights at all. So the main reason that the drug war is criminal and morally insane is not just the economic destruction it causes. It's not just the crime that it causes. It's the violation of your personal rights. Look, people become addicted to almost anything. Food, sugar, sex, alcohol, gambling, sleep, you name it. It's not good when you do too much of absolutely anything. But one thing is for sure. If you take personal responsibility away from people, they're going to become more irresponsible. They're going to become more like children. So the drug war isn't saving society from a danger. It's actually destroying society. Those are the three reasons why, inevitably, reality has to win out, and drugs are going to become legal across the board. And pot's the first on the runway.
Do you think the federal government will step in and overrule the states at any point?
No, that's out of the question. Look, the cat is completely out of the bag here. Pot has been proven to have huge medical benefits. There are many scores of cannabinoids that are contained in pot, other than the psychoactive THC, and many are highly beneficial in many ways to many different diseases. But we haven't been able to research these things for many decades because pot's been a Schedule I drug, making it very hard to research it. Its benefits. Who knows how many people this has damaged irreparably? So the feds are going to have to legalize it for medical reasons alone. But that's just number one. Number two is there is a recreational market. Now, I don't believe in getting drunk. I don't believe in getting stoned and losing your control of your mind. You can do this in a lot of ways. Alcohol is the primary way today. But most people who drink don't get drunk. And the same's true of pot. A lot of people like to take the edge off with it. I'm not advocating that, but I think it's got a place in life. It's part of controlling your own body. But let me point out something that's not often talked about, and that's the industrial applications of marijuana. And by this I mean hemp, the actual plant as opposed to its ingredients. Its uses are absolutely gigantic. It can be a substitute for cotton and fabrics and wood pulp and paper. This is huge, especially in an age where cotton's expensive, and cotton destroys the soil where it's grown. It depletes the soil, and it depletes water. It's a water hog. Pot is, or I should say the marijuana plant, the hemp plant, offers a lot of alternatives to cotton for clothing, and especially alternatives to wood for paper. Wood pulp for making paper is very destructive of the environment, of the water system, causes lots of problems. Hemp grows like a weed. It's going to replace wood pulp and paper in many instances. These applications actually are going to dwarf its recreational and even its medical applications. But they've been completely illegal in this country for decades. So, look, the war for the legalization of pot is almost won. The only people fighting against legalization at this point are outfits like the DEA, the FBI, the CIA, and a lot of state and local agencies. And, of course, the drug dealers themselves, because drugs are only profitable while they're illegal, this drug anyway. So these agencies and the drug dealers are the ones that have a huge interest in keeping drugs illegal because there's so much money in it for all of them. The impending decriminalization of pot and hemp is a step in the right direction towards putting both the crime syndicates and these three-letter agencies in their place.
What made you invest in marijuana, Doug? You got in earlier than most folks.
Well, it was clear to me a long time ago that this was going to be huge for medical and recreational and, of course, its industrial uses, which are going to take thousands, millions of acres to grow hemp, replacing other less economic plants. But, you know, it's funny. I have a number of friends from the 60s and 70s who made it big in pot, coke, and psychedelic drugs. And in those days, the penalties were minimal, the narcs were few and inexperienced, competition was light. And it's funny, you talk about these hippie entrepreneurs, and they were hippies in those days. They tended to get into either drugs or computers, like Steve Jobs. But when I got interested in this business, the only way to do it was in private companies that were early adopters. People were too skittish, and it was very hard to take a company public that had anything to do with pot. So I got involved with the private companies that were planning ahead. Now, they were risky. I mean, 75% of the private companies you invest in any business go bust. But, of course, that's because it's a pioneer stage company, and the risks and rewards are commensurate. So, I've been in this area for a while.
Doug, you obviously got in early on marijuana. What would you say to those who think they've missed the boat? What would you tell these people about investing in marijuana today?
Well, I understand, because this has been going on for a while, and there's been a little bit of a bubble in recent months. But first of all, it's much easier now that illegality is no longer a serious issue. And while potential returns are somewhat smaller now, you're no longer a pioneer, so the risk is a lot less. And the problem with being a pioneer is the pioneers are usually the ones that wind up with arrows in their backs. I live in Aspen, Colorado during the northern summer, and it's amazing. But that little town of 7,000 people has, I don't know how many now, 5? There's probably 10 pot shops, and they're all coining money. The biggest problem they have is the banks won't accept their cash deposits because the federales have a prohibition against anything to do with pot. And of course, the banking system is a federal thing. So the banks don't take their money. They have so much money, literally cash, because they don't know what to do with it. And this is still the early days. Now, here's the thing. This industry is going to grow hugely. And the reason why big profits are still ahead is that most people are still afraid. They still think it's illegal. They don't even want to take the slightest chance of crossing a line. This, and they don't understand the utility of the marijuana plant, cannabinoids, and hemp. And lastly, a lot of people mistakenly think there's a moral issue to this. They're still morally opposed to this. They haven't thought it out. So the big wave of use and growth in buying in the area of public companies is still ahead of us. This is really like investing in the alcohol business after Prohibition was gotten rid of.
Also, Doug, you've made millions from Canadian companies over your career. You are intimately familiar with the investment opportunities in Canada. Why do you see Canada as becoming a world power in legal marijuana?
Well, because as of a couple months from now, it's going to be legal. Now, marijuana is legal in Uruguay today, no problems. But Uruguay is a backward little socialist country, and they haven't figured out how to capitalize on this. Canada, it's going to be legal on all bases, and they're going to be growing a lot of it. So the big impetus in public companies is to take advantage of the fact that it's legal in Canada. And of course, Canada's famous for having a speculative stock market where it's possible to finance all kinds of ideas. So there are probably a couple hundred pot companies in Canada today. Now, most of them are junk, just as Pareto's law, 80% of everything is garbage. And that's true with pot companies in Canada. But a lot of these companies are going to become the next Seagrams or the next Coors. So I think that's the place to look right now.
And Doug, I know your interest in marijuana goes beyond just investing in it. You recently wrote a novel all about drugs, like marijuana. Can you tell us what spurred you to do that, and of course, what this novel's about?
Well, thanks for asking. And but like I said, this whole thing hinges not just around the question of the illegality of drugs or the medical benefits of marijuana. It really hinges around the morality of this thing as much as anything else. I'm writing a series of novels with my friend John Hunt, who incidentally is a medical doctor, and the idea is to reform the unjustly besmirched reputations of 6 highly politically incorrect occupations. One of them is that of drug lord, where our hero Charles Knight becomes a drug lord. He was a speculator, and then he goes on to other even more risky occupations. But anyway, why do we decide to reform the reputation of drug lords? Well, because there's nothing innately wrong with drugs, and there's nothing innately wrong with being a drug lord. In fact, as shocking as the thought is, with all the government propaganda out there today, you could be a good guy and be a drug lord simultaneously. And that's what the book Drug Lord is trying to explain. Now, I've got to point out also, Nick, that there are a lot of things you can say in the form of fiction that you actually had best not, or even dare not say, in the form of nonfiction. So we go into a lot of stuff about the whole drug world in Drug Lord. But interestingly, I think I ought to point out that the book Drug Lord deals not just with the illegal DEA kind of drugs like marijuana and cocaine and others. But we deal with the legal FDA kind of drugs. And I think this is something that's got to be drawn to people's attention because people are unaware of the fact that the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration, probably kills more people every year than the Defense Department does in a typical decade. Frankly, if you want to worry about drugs, it's more appropriate to be concerned about scores of potent psychiatric drugs from Ritalin to Prozac that are actively pushed in the U.S. at high prices. And these things can turn users into anything from zombies to space cadets to walking time bombs. So once again, the only answer to the war on drugs is the same as it was to the equally stupid and destructive war on Demon Run that they fought during the 20s. And that's the complete repeal of prohibition and unregulated legalization of these things. It's time for people to again become responsible as individuals for their own lives. And I'm pleased to say that it's starting with marijuana, and it's going to be very big.
Well, that's terrific, Doug. I recently read your book, and it's a fun and interesting read. Thank you for taking your time to join us here today.
Well, thank you, Nick. It's been my pleasure. Thanks, guys, and talk to you later.
Well, we can definitely sense Doug's excitement about marijuana, especially the long-term outlook. But you need to get in on the 2018 marijuana boom now. With California now legal and Canada set to be in a few months, we're on the cusp of one of the biggest waves of marijuana profits in history.
John, you're 100% spot on. So many people sat on the sidelines the first time around and missed out. That's why it's important to jump on these stocks today, that you ensure your share of the biggest gains, like Vapor Enterprises up 69,900%, Endex up 32,000%, Maple Leaf Green World up 17,300%, Aurora Cannabis up 10,867%, Praetorian Property up 7,820%, Cerna up 3,986%, American Cannabis up 2,608%, 22nd Century up 2,455%, Marifarm Ventures up 1,188%, Alliance Growers up 1,375%, Axin Biotechnologies up 6,233%, Puff Ventures up 4,400%, Pot Network Holdings up 399,900%, Supreme Pharmaceuticals up 157,900%, Afria up 1,134%, Medical Cannabis Payment up 299,900%, Rocky Mountain High up 2,088%. If you had caught the first marijuana boom and invested in one of these companies, you could have made up to 399,000 times your money. So, you can see why we're so confident in our 5 for 500% guarantee. Every pot stock above did at least triple that. And the gains we see from the next marijuana boom will dwarf anything we've previously seen in any industry. It will be 8 times bigger.
Justin, after seeing all these results, I'm more excited than ever about the future of marijuana stocks. But now I see there are many more marijuana stocks out there than I realized. How does someone find the best ones?
That's simple. Our team has put together a time-sensitive special report. It's available to everyone who's joined us today. There are lots of marijuana companies out there, and many, I'd say even most, will flop. They have bad business plans or bad management. Many others are just trying to catch the marijuana wave, but don't have a good enough product or service to survive the ultra-competitive marijuana market. But as marijuana gets more accepted, a handful of cannabis companies will start to dominate the market. Those are the ones we're focusing on. You don't need to invest in dozens and dozens of companies, and you don't need to put thousands and thousands of dollars at risk for the chance to make $1 million with marijuana stocks in 2018. We've made investing in marijuana super simple. For everyone who's joined us today, I want to send you a special report. Become a marijuana millionaire in 2018. How to cash in on the biggest pot boom in our lifetime. The report can be yours free. It reveals everything you need to know about how to invest the smart way in the new marijuana boom of 2018. More importantly, it highlights the 5 companies we see dominating the marijuana market in the years to come, including the one company that's the smartest bet in marijuana today. Inside this new report, you'll get all the details, and we think it will blow past the gains of other pot stocks and return 10 to 1 over time. This is the one company that can make you rich safely. This company is in position to capture a large share of the Canadian marijuana market.
Justin, can you tell us about it right now?
Sure, this company has a revolutionary business model, but they don't grow, harvest, or distribute marijuana. They don't sell seeds, grow lamps, or fertilizer. They do something much more important. They have the one thing that every single grower in the country needs. This company is the backbone behind some of Canada's most promising privately held growers. You'd normally have to be an accredited investor or insider to invest in these startups, and you'd have to pony up 50 or 100 grand. So, investing in this company is like investing in a fund of Canada's brightest marijuana startups. But you're getting in for just a few $100s. Right now, they're building the largest network of growers on Earth, and they just inked a deal to create the largest indoor cannabis and processing facility in the world. An investment in this company is as ground floor as you can get into the Canadian marijuana industry.
Now I see why you call it the smartest bet in marijuana today. What an incredible chance for regular folks to get in on one of the most innovative companies in the marijuana space. But you said there were 2 reasons everyone should look at this company. What's the second?
It's under $1.50 right now. I can't imagine seeing it at this price ever again. I predict this one company will far exceed our 5 for 500% guarantee.
And folks will get the name of the company in the report, right?
Yep. Plus our full research dossier on the company. And remember, Casey Research is willing to guarantee that you will have the chance to see 500% gains from each of the 5 marijuana stocks reviewed in this presentation today. That's why I want to tell you about another company in the report.
Go ahead.
I'm really excited about this company. It's on the way to becoming the Amazon of marijuana. Here's why. It's on the verge of its biggest breakthrough ever, mail-order delivery of recreational pot. Medical marijuana in Canada is delivered via mail. In fact, this company already mails its medical marijuana to 1/4 of all patients in Canada. And now it's ramping up to supply recreational users. Earlier this year, it started working on its Amazon of recreational weed e-commerce site. It's estimated that the majority of recreational sales will come through mail order for the first 2 years. An investment in this company is just like investing in Amazon when it was less than $20 a share. Today, Amazon trades for around $1,000, so that would have been a 4,900% gain. How different would your life be today had you done that? Here's a second chance.
And just to be clear, even though these are Canadian companies, they're listed on the American stock exchanges, right?
Absolutely. They're as easy to buy as Apple, Walmart, Exxon, or Amazon. You buy them right online in your current brokerage account like you do any other stock. It's that simple. And I want to tell you about another company in this report.
Go ahead.
The first company I told you about is the smartest bet in marijuana. Well, this one is the safest bet. This is the one marijuana company that can make you rich comfortably. It's a real estate investment trust that specializes in marijuana, which is some of the most valuable land in the world. Here's how it works. It buys warehouses from large growers and then leases it back to them. This company is quickly becoming the largest owner of marijuana grow facilities in the nation. And here's the biggest benefit for investors in this company. Because this company is a REIT, it must pay out at least 90% of its taxable income as dividends. It went public last December and is already paying out dividends on profits. If you get in at current prices, you could easily see double-digit dividend yields on your initial investment. This is ideal for anyone who wants a safe investment that dishes out steady income.
Now I see why you call it the safest bet in marijuana. I don't know too many companies that become profitable their first year of business. And folks will get the name of the company in the report, right?
Yep, and it too is covered in our 5 for 500% guarantee.
I know you've included 3 more marijuana investments in this report, including 2 pick and shovel plays. So between all 5 plays, you'll get a mix of pick and shovels as well as growers.
That's right. With just these 5 stocks, you've got a marijuana portfolio that gives you the best chance to become a marijuana millionaire over time.
Can you give us a rundown of the other 3 stocks?
Of course. I'm really excited about this company. I really think it's going to turn into the Home Depot of pot. Today, we all know Home Depot as a huge home improvement chain, but it started in 1979 with just 2 stores in Georgia. It went public in 1981. If you had invested $1,000 back then, today you'd be sitting on over $6 million. And if you reinvested dividends, you'd be sitting on over $8 million. This company is where Home Depot was in 1981. Today, most marijuana hydroponic stores are mom and pop operations, but this company is creating the first major marijuana hydroponic retailer. It's a one-stop shop that has everything from soils to containers to pest control to fans and ventilation. They're big enough to have a proven model, yet small enough where its growth potential is off the charts. Sales of this business have almost doubled every year since 2014. Shares could hit the moon in the months ahead as it becomes the top picks and shovels play in the pot boom. It wouldn't surprise me if this trade turned into a 10-bagger or better. Now, of course, nothing in the market is guaranteed. There is clear volatility here that makes this opportunity one not for the faint of heart. That said, this and other recommendations have a buy up to safety net. We've put all the details on this company in our new report.
And what's the 5th stock?
Our 5th pick is another pick and shovels play. It does one thing better than anyone else in the marijuana industry. It creates packaging for marijuana. Every legal marijuana sale in the U.S. requires specialized containers. It's already sold 100 million bottles and has customers in the U.S., Canada, South America, and Europe. And over the past year, it's grown and quadrupled its customer base. But I have to warn everyone listening tonight, this company is still small. Its stock can move fast as word gets out. It can shoot past our buy-up-to price as soon as Canada starts selling recreational pot. So, the quicker you get in, the bigger your gains could be.
Folks, we've seen the marijuana bull market after Colorado went legal. The best pot stocks averaged peak gains of 24,000%. We saw it again right after California started selling recreational pot. And it's obvious we're going to see it again and again and again every time a state or country goes legal. And we know that Canada is set to legalize recreational pot on June 7th. And it'll cause the biggest marijuana bull market of our lifetime. There's no reason to miss out on this again, especially when Justin and his team are handing you the top 5 picks.
Absolutely. And there's one more thing. Nick recently found a 6th pick he's adding. It's our newest find, and it's included in the report too.
We're running up against time on the clock here, Justin. Can you give us a really quick preview?
Sure. This is basically the Whole Foods of cannabis. Just like Whole Foods dominates the organic food market, this company is set to control natural marijuana. And while there are a number of organic pot growers, this company produces cannabis without pesticides at double the industry average. It's considered by many to be the best in the business. And according to a well-respected research firm, this may not only be the most advanced medical marijuana facility in Canada, but it may be one of the most undervalued. This bonus pick is the ideal niche play, and best of all, it's trading for under $2. And it too is covered by the 5 for 500% guarantee.
And all the picks you just reviewed, they're all included in your new report, right?
That's right. Everything in our new report, Become a Marijuana Millionaire in 2018, How to Cash In on the Biggest Pot Boom in Our Lifetime.
Great. So we've got your 6 top marijuana investments in your new report. And you anticipate each of these stocks rallying at least 500% or more over the next year. But it's crucial we get this report in the hands of viewers right away.
Right. These stocks are the best way I can see to get started with the second boom in marijuana stocks. Look, we've spent hundreds of hours on this report, and I've crisscrossed North America to get the real on-location story of today's pot boom. Plus, Casey Research spends over $1 million each year to fund this research, our travel, the sophisticated tools we use, and other expenses. It's what gives us our edge. You can't get this insider-level intelligence sitting behind a desk, especially in an industry moving as fast as marijuana. In short, a huge amount of time, effort, and money goes into what we do, so there's no way we can just give these 6 marijuana picks away. Rather than that, today we've decided to do something much bigger, because we're going to share this research in an all-new launch report for our elite-level VIP service, Crisis Investing. The report is called Become a Marijuana Millionaire in 2018, and it includes the 5 for 500% pot stock guarantee.
Right, we've discussed this guarantee, but it's so unprecedented that I think we ought to just lay out completely and clearly for the viewers. I mean, this is the most incredible guarantee I've seen in the business.
Me too, John. So here's the Casey 5 for 500% guarantee. Anyone who joins Crisis Investing today gets this bold guarantee. We're so confident that anyone could become a marijuana millionaire following these recommendations that Casey Research is willing to guarantee that our track record will give you the chance to see 500% gains from each of the 6 marijuana stocks reviewed in this presentation today. Look, I realize this level of confidence sounds crazy, but we're more than comfortable promising this because any one of the stocks in the Become a Marijuana Millionaire in 2018 report could go up far more than 500%. It wouldn't surprise me to see 1,000%, 5,000%, or higher gains, like marijuana stocks saw with 1,123% in only 2 months for Earth Science Tech, 1,375% in only 3 months for Alliance Growers, 6,233% in only 4 months for Axon Biotechnologies, 1,188% in only 4 months for Marafarm Venture, 4,033% in only 7 months for the Hydropothecary Corp, and 4,400% in only 9 months for Puff Ventures. These are the type of gains we're shooting for. Plus, you saw how a choice index of marijuana stocks paid out an average of 24,000%. You also saw how a small stake of $200 could have grown into $1.8 million with 3 select marijuana stocks. But here, we've got to be completely clear about something, John. This research took us so much time, energy, and capital to put together that we can't offer refunds. But here's the thing. We're offering Crisis Investing at such an outstanding price, including the Become a Marijuana Millionaire in 2018 report, plus such an unprecedented 5 for 500% guarantee that we simply need folks to commit to this fully. So that's why there's no refunds.
That's a fair expectation on your part. After all, when someone joins, they'll have immediate access to your best 6 marijuana stock picks. And just think, all 6 of them could hand folks 500% gains. So a stake of $1,000 in each could grow into $36,000. I wouldn't be surprised if these stocks shot up even higher, considering some of the other marijuana stock gains we looked at tonight.
Right, and that's why we're happy to send these picks right off the bat. But, as we've seen in the past, sometimes a few people take advantage of that. They'll sign up, get all the picks, and then turn around and cancel, demanding a refund. That's not fair to the committed readers, and it's not fair to us. Perhaps most importantly, many of these marijuana stocks are still small companies. They're likely to move up fast with very little volume. So we have to make sure only a small circle of serious readers gets in on them. We can't let someone who lacks conviction dilute the power of this information. That's why we've got to protect our readers who have fully committed to becoming marijuana millionaires, and we've got to protect our research. So all sales are final.
Well, that actually seems like a benefit. You're only allowing folks who are serious about becoming the next marijuana millionaire in, while the freeloaders and tire kickers are kept out. Thing is, we've already seen how your research has helped committed folks get super rich in the past. After using a Casey Research play to grab 3,520%, LC wrote us, "I am now financially independent." Longtime reader Jim Grover wrote in, "The first dollar I invested is up over 1,000%. While Casey Research helped Ray make $1 million. In the 3 years since I have owned JIN, me, my wife, and kids have pulled out 7 figures, and I still have the majority of my shares." And Bob Oliver said, "Your picks have made me tons of money over the years, enough so I've been retired since 1992. My life consists of enjoying myself to the max." Or consider William M.'s story. He took a 5,800% gain. Bill made 1,000%. Mark grabbed 200, 400, and 600%. Mary booked $32,000 on her first play. Carl snagged 3,100%, and Dominic thanked us for helping him achieve intellectual and financial freedom. So after seeing those astounding letters from existing Casey readers, I can see why you think such an aggressive guarantee as the 5 for 500% is reasonable. Really, your readers stand a good chance of doing even better with today's opportunity in marijuana stocks. We've seen that your approach has worked time and again for folks who get your research, which makes me wonder, how exactly does this membership to Crisis Investing work?
This part's simple, John. Right when someone becomes a member, we'll send them an instant download link for Become a Marijuana Millionaire in 2018. After that, each month, they'll get a full issue with at least one new stock recommendation, and each issue is written in plain, easy-to-read language, and includes Nick and Doug's insights on the biggest opportunity they see to profit from, the one they're zeroing in on that could make you a small fortune. You don't need any experience or knowledge about the stock market. You don't need to know anything about marijuana. If you have a brokerage account, you'll be able to take advantage of the opportunity.
Okay, so with the 6 stocks included in Become a Marijuana Millionaire in 2018 report, plus the 12 picks from the monthly issues, a new member is looking at 18 total plays that could rise 500% or more.
Well, 30 plays, John.
Well, how's that math work?
Well, for this event only, we're adding a full additional year of service. First, because we want to make it such a good no-brainer deal that nobody decides to pass up this second chance to become a marijuana millionaire. And secondly, because this marijuana boom isn't going anywhere. So folks will definitely want that extra year of service to see how this historic opportunity plays out. And that's why we decided to reward the committed folks with a free year of membership.
Great. Justin and Nick, thanks for your time tonight.
My pleasure, John.
Yes, my pleasure too. I hope the viewers had a great time.
Today you have the unique opportunity to take the next steps in becoming the new marijuana millionaire. As one of the select circle of folks invited to attend tonight's summit, now's your time to decide whether you want to make the most of this historic opportunity. Because you can be one of the very few folks to get a copy of our just launched Become a Marijuana Millionaire in 2018, How to Cash In on the Biggest Pot Boom of Our Lifetime. In it, you'll discover the 5 best marijuana stocks set to shoot up 500% or more over the next 12 months. And you'll become a new member of his elite VIP service, Crisis Investing. Every month, you'll benefit from Nick's tireless research to find the best speculative stocks right now. He uses his proprietary stock radar to find tiny, unknown small-cap companies with the potential of quick moves of 500% or more. Every month, you'll benefit from Nick's tireless research to find the best speculative stocks for right now. He uses his proprietary stock radar to find tiny, unknown small-cap companies with the potential of quick moves of 500% or more. Nick could charge more than $10,000 per year for this level of research. But that's nowhere near what you'll pay tonight because Crisis Investing doesn't cost anywhere near $10,000. It's not even $7,500 because the normal retail price for 2 years is $6,000. But you won't pay anything even near that much tonight. We put together a special deal for anyone who chose to spend time with us during tonight's summit. And you'll pay for 12 months of Nick's in-depth monthly issues and an additional full year free of charge. Plus your urgent report filled with 6 marijuana stocks poised to go up 500% or more, and access to our members-only website. All you pay tonight is $1,995. That's a 66% discount off the already low retail price. Here's the catch. If too many folks respond to this offer, we'll have to shut it down quickly, especially because these pot stocks are pretty small. And we expect to have a lot of interest because of the huge 5 for 500% guarantee. Put succinctly, everyone who joins Crisis Investing today will have the chance to see 500% gains from each of the 6 marijuana stocks we recommend in our track record before the end of your subscription. If any of these picks fall short of 500%, simply give us a call and we'll add another full year of service free of charge. Even if we only show you 5 500% winners, or even if the 6th hits 497% instead of the full 500%, just give us a call and we'll do the rest. As you might imagine, this strong of a promise is a huge financial commitment on our end, but the magnitude of today's opportunity in marijuana stocks speaks for itself. And while risks exist and losses sometimes occur, the winners in a boom like this can be life-changing. So, let's recap all the benefits when you become a Crisis Investing member right now. Become a marijuana millionaire in 2018. 12 monthly issues of Crisis Investing per year, with each one including at least one stock trade, plus an additional free year of Crisis Investing. Urgent anytime updates. Whenever it's time to take profits or put on an urgent trade, Nick will fire out an instant email alert so you can maximize your profits. Plus, taking action today, you'll get these 5 additional bonuses. Surviving the coming financial crisis, a copy of Doug Casey's new book, Drug Lord, a 24/7 online access to our members-only website, the Crisis Investing Owner's Manual, and don't forget your 5 for 500% guarantee. Everyone who joins Crisis Investing today will have the chance to see 500% gains from each of the 6 marijuana stocks we recommend before the end of your subscription. If that doesn't happen, contact us and we'll add yet another year of service, also free of charge. Look, as an insider in one of the most esteemed financial publishing networks in the world, I can say that I've never seen anything like this. This is probably the biggest profit event I've seen, the historic second boom in the marijuana stocks. In fact, this is completely unprecedented, where everyday investors have a chance to get in on the ground floor of a huge profit boom like we'll see in marijuana stocks. We saw how an index of choice pot stocks soared an average of 24,000%, and we saw how a small stake of $200 could blossom into $1.8 million with just 3 marijuana plays. And we saw how Doug Casey has already become a marijuana millionaire. Today, you can choose to join him, but only if you hurry up and act right away, because this second marijuana boom has already started. Now you've got your chance to join those richly rewarded Casey readers. You've got the chance to do what Doug Casey and other quick-acting investors did and become a new marijuana millionaire. Simply click on the I Want Everything button to see how you can get started profiting today. I'm John Whelan signing off. Thanks for joining us for the Pot Stock Millionaire Summit.